Okay. So does anyone have anything they'd like to share this morning or ask any questions?
Yes, Master Kim, I'd love to share that what you talked about made all the difference for me, and somehow the alignment clicked into place and I could feel the chi in a way I haven't felt in the form ever before. It was like mind blowing. So it felt like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Oh, now I understand why people enjoy doing this. Okay, cool. So
That's
that
funny.
was a big gift. Thank you.
Oh, welcome. So what is it that you felt? Like, did you feel what is it that you
I
felt? Like,
felt the
how do you feel?
connection. I felt the connection between my elbow and my fourth digit, and I felt it's like it was sort of like a way into feeling extension. And I could tell that like I had to have like the drop shoulder and the drop elbow, and to feel the hollowness in order for that connection to happen, because I tried a few times to get it back and I was like, I'm not feeling it. But the sequence that you mentioned helped me get back into it, and then yeah, it just felt extended. Like I felt like I was extending from my elbow through, and I could finally feel extension beyond my fingers and into space, in the space in front of me. And then that helped me feel like the rest of my alignment, like empty spirit summit strong, and like I felt like one piece too. I felt,
Mm,
instead of feeling like a bunch of uncomfortable, you know, wobbly skeleton pieces moving around, I felt like one piece
yeah,
of coordinated
one piece.
skeleton.
Yeah. One piece. You felt like one piece. Yeah.
Hmm.
Where you could feel all of your nine pearls moving
Oh,
together,
okay.
right?
Thank you.
Because
Mm.
if you felt your shoulders moving together, and if you felt, like your empty spirit summit strong, which is your head, if you felt that, and you felt, like your skeletal structure, you're basically talking about your nine pearls,
Mm, mhm,
right? And so you basically felt all of your nine pearls uh, linking together, if you will.
mm.
So that's the experience. So that's good. That's really good.
Cool. Thank you, Master Kim.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Very good. Okay. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share, comment on, or ask any questions?
Yes, I'll share two things. First, piggybacking on the last sharing, which was really awesome. I really appreciated as well the teaching you gave on the fourth finger and the connection to the elbow and subtle shoulder weighted elbow. And it was really helpful. And it really actually, I had an experience, what you said, where like that, like I forget the wording you said, but basically how like the forgotten thing or the less valued thing kind of brings everything together. And it made a huge difference. Just feeling that connection, it felt like it really made a big difference in activating my lung meridian. And I felt like it kind of inflated my lung meridian. I feel like it opened up like the whole front of my body. And because of that, I felt like the back of my body could also open more. And especially my Ming Men, it felt like the loosened waist, seated qua, like felt a lot clearer, and like that area relaxed. And because of that, like my whole body felt like came together. And then it felt like when we were doing the application, the form, that the like movement from the Ming Men was more clear than it had been before. And it was just, it was really cool to see how that all came from just, one digit and one connection. And then, I guess also the the armpit and the subtle shoulder weighted elbow. And so it's just really cool to see how, like, it really is the one, if you have one of the 9 pearls in effect, like it really kind of makes the rest happen. So that was really, really cool. And I really appreciated the approach of like the thing that we forget, you know, or the thing that we don't value is the thing that actually makes everything work or makes everything happen. And that kind of reminded me of a lot of scriptures on that. So that was the first thing I wanted to share. And then also the teaching you gave earlier in class was really helpful about in the yoga portion and the joint portion, the flexibility, like less is more. That was really helpful, the teaching you gave on that, because I've had the experience before of less is more, but I realized today from that teaching that there was a part where I was like afraid or ashamed to actually go as little as my system wanted to do. Because I was kind of like embarrassed or ashamed or afraid of actually how little it would be. So I didn't fully want to go there. And so I was like trying to make it more than it actually wanted to go. And when I actually just accepted where its true range was, it actually opened up so much more than that. So that was also just really helpful. So I wanted to share that and thank you for that.
You're welcome. You know, I'll tell you something funny. Your body is actually trying to do what your mind wants it to do. Like if you want it to go more, your body is actually trying to go more for you. The issue is because we're forcing it, it can't. And I remember, you know, as I was going through the goal series, you know, and as the goal series is a meditative experience. It's a meditation while exploration. And so I felt my body distinctly telling me, like, look, like, when I did less and then my body started opening up, my body was like, look, this is what I've been trying to tell you. I've been trying to help you get to where you want to go, and I haven't been able to because you're not listening. And what you actually get to find out is that the body actually is always trying to deliver for you what you're hoping for. And I'd like to say beyond that, the only reason that it can't do its job or do that for you, that which you've been looking for, is because you're not listening to it. It's almost like, being on a horse and you're trying to get somewhere, and you're basically, it's almost like pulling on the what do you call that,
The reins?
the reins, to try and have it go faster. But if you pull on the reins,
Yeah.
then you're pulling the horse back, right?
Yeah.
So
Totally.
yeah, so it's like probably the closest analogy that I've come is that we're wanting the horse to run forward while we're pulling on the reins.
That is super
So
helpful.
yeah.
That makes so much sense. And it makes me think of like in the scriptures, it says that the divine is trying to is meeting all of our needs. And I feel like that really makes it more concrete. It's like your body is trying to meet the needs and even better than you think, but because the picture that you have, you can't allow it, and you pull the reins back.
Yes. Yeah. And when the needs are met, it's actually always better than you think it's gonna be. It's like, oh, it's just so much better. But it's like we can't, but it's a fear, right? Like it's like understandable, because it's a fear. It's a fear of things being out of control or never getting there. It's a fear that allows, that makes us keep forcing things. And it's the uncertainty, or again, the fear of pain, the fear um, of death, the fear of the end, the fear of rejection, the fear of separation. It's a fear that causes the forcing the tension. And it's like difficult to let go of the control when there's pain, when there's fear, when you're afraid that if you let go, the worst thing that you're imagining is going to happen, or it's kind of like what you were talking about, that you're ashamed to just let it be and to actually find out what the actual range was. And it's kind of like an interesting thing of acceptance, because the starting point is always worse than what we would like it to be. But, and that's why the spiritual teachings talk about humility. But then when you accept the starting point to be what you're afraid it to be, because I found, it's like we're always right. It's actually one of the reasons why I always jokingly say that the issue isn't that it isn't true. The issue is that it is true. I think the issue is that we're right about what we're afraid of. And I think the issue we rarely come out of the place where we're caught is because what we're afraid is going to happen is going to happen. And so, but I think, the trick is we don't see beyond the point of our fear. So we don't want to accept what we're afraid of. And so like the initial movement, like the initial range, oh yeah, it indeed is really not much of a movement. So we're afraid to find that out. And you'll notice that behind that there is an experience of being judged for not being enough in your past, either by our parents or by someone very important in our lives, where they made a comment or something that made us feel lesser. And the irony of life is that they didn't really mean that. And they're probably trying to be helpful. But the way it lands on our system, we take it as that we can't recover from that because that's who we are. But anyways, and so because of that, we're trying to prevent from being, from being lesser or whatever it is that we're afraid to be. And we're trying to prevent that from happening. And the issue is that when we let go, it does happen. More often than not, it does happen. But then the miracle is beyond that which you are afraid that's going to happen. Like what you found out, like you actually moved a lot more. And it's kind of like, however it looked in the beginning, the end is very different to let go. And so to be able to see beyond the point of what we're afraid of.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So
It makes me think of I'm going to paraphrase this, but something I've heard you say, which is like, we can do less in a day than we think we can do, but we can do more in a month than we think we can do. And it's like, what you're saying makes me think of that. It's like the starting point. It's true what we think it is, but it's like less than we want it to be. So we don't actually start, but actually the end point is more than we think will be, but we don't actually get there because we won't actually accept the starting point.
yes. That's why it's always like less is more. It's It's kind of a funny thing. I really like going back to this, but there's a comic book compilation of Buddha's life story. It's called just the Buddha. It's really well written. It's as well written as any novel. And in there is a situation where when Buddha is still actually discovering his path, he's caught within walls that are 40 feet tall, and they can't escape. And they realize that the only thing they can do is to actually dig a hole and pile up the dirt 40 feet tall. And if you think about it, that's like a massive job. And so they're daunted by it, and everyone is kind of looking at it, it's like, oh, that's impossible. It's forever. And Buddha said, well, there's nothing else we can do. So, and then he just takes a shovel, and then he just starts. And then everyone else kind of joins in. And the next scene, it pans to the next scene, and you see them being done. And they're talking and said, wow, I thought we'd never get done. Surprisingly, that wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. And Buddha says, it's amazing how it's always worse in the mind.
Amen.
Yeah, right. And so oftentimes when we have a daunting task, the real issue is just breaking the inertia, the initial first step. And I feel like less is more, just really helps us with that. Just really understanding, okay, I just need to do that, which I can do. And if I can just allow myself to just do that, which I can do, and then no more, no less, then the next step will be revealed. And that's a very humbling, yet really grace-filled journey of life, I feel. And really inspiring, actually. And empowering. It's like, and so it's all of it's true. And I think that's actually what a great spiritual journey is just that it's all of it. It's grace-filled, it's humbling, yet it's empowering, it's inspiring, it's confidence building, and it's all of it. And I think that we try and choose. We try and just be humble, or we try and just be confident. And then I think the concept lacks so much balance. It's kind of like saying, I'm just going to use my back muscles, but your core muscles are more than just your back muscles. It's a combination of them working together. So, like eventually you overwork something and it stops working because it's not in balance. But anyways, and so, yeah, this morning, like I just wanted to talk about less is more, and then actually that the less considered is oftentimes actually the exact solution that we're missing. Like the emptiness, like the fourth finger. It's not the finger that we consider to be important, yet because it is the least important, we don't realize that when we tie it together, it actually brings everything together. And it's actually oftentimes it's actually true also like in a group dynamic. If you take care of the person who is suffering the most, it actually brings a whole group together. If you listen to a person who has the least position, oftentimes it brings the whole group together. And so, it's a very powerful concept. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you for, oh, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. That really tied a lot of things together for me. And I love the analogy with the picture from the Buddha story. That was really awesome. Thank you, Master Kim.
You're welcome. Yeah, you know, like I feel like good principles are always true, regardless of situation, right? It ties all things together. So, okay, very good. Okay, anyone else want to share anything or ask any questions or make any comments?
I would like to share something.
Yes, please.
So I was having an experience today of feeling rather full in my system. And yeah, I guess it was interesting because I could feel some of it was like when you described about the movement and things, like my movement felt pretty free, but I could feel it in the space right in my aura. It was just like, wow, it's just thick in there. And then some on the organs. And so I was like imagining it kind of expanding into the space. And then that was helpful. Like that was an instruction, I think, from earlier this week or last week, just feeling things expand into the space. And then there was a part like towards the end where I was like, this is kind of an intense sensation. And I was like, well, what if I just feel it, feel the spaciousness or the normalness, or feel it from my whole body? Some of those things that make it less intense to experience. And I realized my system wanted to experience the intensity, like it wanted to amplify it. And it was like resisting just feeling more normal. And I thought that was really interesting. And I could tell there's like a need tied to experiencing that intensity, you know, itself. And that was kind of the observation that happened through it. And I think that helped. It didn't quite resolve it, but it sort of brought a perspective. It's like, oh, I actually, of the aspect that the particular way I was holding on, and like some of the reasons why I was holding on to all that energy. So I just kind of wanted to share that and see if you had any comments or next steps.
Oh, I actually just love that. I just really love what you shared there. You know, I remember in my earlier days, you know, when I was studying, I thought that Tai Chi was about being soft, you know, especially because I come from the external martial arts, and my external martial art teacher said that, you know, Tai Chi is soft, and because you're learning something hard, you should learn something soft. And so, like, you know, I think, and you know, this is kind of the side comment, but like I had just really good teachers because they wanted the best for me, and so they basically said they recommended that I'd actually go and study a different art so that I would be better off. And isn't this beautiful? Like for someone to be able to say, hey, like what you're studying here is hard. You want to balance it with something soft. And so I took that to heart. And it's actually one of the reasons I started, you know, practicing Tai Chi, to balance that and to learn about energy, since I'd learned external martial arts before. And the interesting thing is that when I started practicing Tai Chi, some of my Tai Chi teachers actually said it's soft, but then it was really interesting. Really, was there one of the masters who said Tai Chi soft? The most common thing that I heard across the board was Tai Chi is neither soft nor hard. Tai Chi is Yin Yang. Tai Chi is appropriate. And you start softening your body because we are so hard. And so there's no balance. And that's what we learn first. And so I think most of the time people think that Tai Chi is not intense, but that's not real Tai Chi. That's superficial Tai Chi. Tai Chi can be very intense. And so, and real Tai Chi is following Yin Yang. And that's what you did. You know, when you tried to, there was an intense sensation and it wasn't going away. You basically followed it and you went into direction. So you went to the opposite direction, the opposite extremes, which is, in abidance with the Tai Chi principle. So if you're trying to shrink something because it seems so big, but it wants to get bigger, then you follow it and then you try and make it even bigger than it even wants to be. And if you're trying to make something bigger, but if it's not, then you go smaller than even wants to be until it wants to start returning. And it's really there for us to be able to listen. So when something wants to be bigger, like in your case, more, where something wants to be more intense, then you need to go as far until it wants to start shrinking again, or where it wants to go in the opposite direction again, because that's what it's about. So you follow it until it starts finding balance. So if you go as far as it wants to go, then it will start pulling you in the opposite direction, which is a sign that it's time to find balance. You've taken it as far as it wants to go. And so, so what I would like to say is that you did really well, like letting it be intense, and not having an idea that it should be calm, or that it should be softer, or that it should be smooth, or really any of that. You're not getting caught up by rules, but that you're actually following the principles of opposite extremes of yin and yang. And what I'd like to say is that it's a constant balance of yin and yang, right? The world is in constant motion. And so our system is in constant motion. It's not like the day comes once and then it forever stays the day. The day comes and then the night comes, the sun rises and then the moon rises, and so on and so forth. And then on top of that, there are the seasons. There's summer, fall, winter, and then spring, and they all go in a certain rhythm. And the idea is to be able to recognize that rhythm and then follow the rhythm and be in balance with that, right? So in the same way, once you let it be intense, then you follow wherever it's leading you, and then it might change again. And what I recommend is you go through the seasons of the story that it's telling you, all that it wants to tell you, until you can feel the natural letting go. And when you've gone through the story, then it will let go. And this is kind of an important concept because, all things, you don't just get to let go. Ironically, we need to let go of wanting to just let go. Typically that happens, because of suffering. And a good example is, the example of labor. When you are going through pregnancy, and and you're getting to your third trimester, second to third trimester, like especially the third trimester, mothers typically really get tired of having to carry, the extra weight and the joints aching and things like it's not uncommon. But you don't actually just get to exit. You have to carry it to the end. And so you don't just let go until the baby is ready to come out. And so letting go is the same way. Our body is the same way. When we are processing through something, or we're digesting through something, and our body is processing through something, it is very much like a pregnancy, where until it is time, we don't get to let go. And spirituality is to learn to have acceptance with that, and to learn how to go through that with more equanimity, because you have understanding, and because you have more understanding, where you can actually bring more balance and peace in that moment as you're going through it. And so where you understand, wow, this is difficult, this really is difficult, you know, I'm not saying that you should be in denial, but where you have empathy with the world and with nature and yourself. And through that empathy comes the kind of understanding that you need in that moment. So you can't have a static understanding. And so I don't know whether that, you know, gives you further understanding. And what I like to say is that, you know, the realization that you have was really great. And what I like to say is that continue going in that direction until you've seen the course through. And once you've seen the course through, you won't need to be looking for what it is you need to find. It will just be there and will stay with you for all of eternity. So
Thank you so much, Mr. Kim. That I really love the analogy of both labor and the story. I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but that's really helpful. Kind of gives me a sense of how to follow it in a more curious and relational way, rather than, oh, it's just stuff that's gotta like release, and why am I hanging on, and why do I need this? And I can tell like there's a forcefulness around my approach to it, because there's a certain expectation that I shouldn't be holding on, but I am holding on. So, you know, obviously it's something, it has something to tell me. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think everyone goes through that. I mean, I know that I went through that. I don't know that it's possible not to go through that. You know, it's kind of like, it's, you know, one of my, when you know, I learned this when I was going through it, you know, I went through the same thing, which is, you know, I realized, wow, I'm really trying to let go. And so I realized, oh, I need to let go of trying to let go. And, you know, and that's half the journey, right? That's so. But
thank you for letting me know that you went through it too.
Oh yeah. I don't know of anyone who doesn't go through it. I think that's part of reality. I don't think anyone gets, I think that's what makes life fair. And if there is someone who didn't go through it, they're the exception. And you know, and there's like probably an exception to everything. But having said that, you know, it's, if you're not that exception, then you shouldn't be looking for that. And if you're the exception, it's not really any better off, because then you feel alone. And, you know, we all know those parts where we feel like we're the exception. Well, that's not exactly fun. So, you know, and we know that because there are people who don't experience pain. I forget the name of the condition, but those people, they say, you don't know what it's like not to have pain. You know how dangerous it is? You know, I stub my toe, and then, you know, if I'm not aware that I'm bleeding, I can bleed to death, right? And so everything has been created in balance. And but having said that, I'd like to say, let yourself just struggle trying to let go and be done with it, and have compassion with that. I think trying to not struggle, I think in itself is kind of like telling a mother in labor saying, you know, you shouldn't struggle. You know, the best you're going to get is a beating, because that's not exactly helpful. It's like telling someone to relax when they're stressing. That's not exactly going to be helpful. What is going to, unless they're needing some direction, and that can be helpful. If they're actually needing someone to coach them through and focus on something other than their pain, in that case, someone directing can be helpful. But you know, when you're just stressing and someone comes and says, just relax, that's not helpful. So,
Right. Yeah.
I like to say that whatever it is, you know, that your system is processing through, if you're wanting to get rid of it, it just means that you're in a lot of pain. And have compassion with that, and have compassion and pride with the fact that your system is so strong that it wants to do something about it. That means that you're a doer, and have compassion with that, and then see what comes out of that. You're doing whatever it is you're trying to do might become a lot more productive in terms of how to let go of things.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm actually past time, so I need to actually scoot here. But I wish the rest of you just a great day of yin yang balance and of just flowing with the seasons and letting things reach the gestation and not trying to let go before that, where you let go of trying to let go and see what happens when you fall away in the moment. Enjoy.
Thank you,
Thank
Master
so
Kim.
much.
Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Welcome. Okay, bye.